All right, what's up, everybody? My name is Jaxler, and this is the Spongebob Squarepants movie. If you have not seen this game before, this is a 3D collectathon platformer that is kind of the spiritual successor / sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom in the same engine. The last time this was run at a Midwest Speed Fest event was in 2018, and back then the estimate was like 2 hours. And now it is an hour 15, so a lot has changed since then. So I'm really excited to be able to bring a more modern run to the Midwest Speed Fest stage. Before we begin the run, I want to mention a couple of things. I am playing on a original Xbox, that giant toaster thing. So the Xbox version of the game is fastest for things like loading times and stuff like that. But I'm specifically using an original Xbox instead of a backwards compatible 360 because it lags the game more, and that lag is going to be super important for some of the tricks I'm going to be going for. This category we're doing is called no pause storage. There's a trick discovered that lets you do some pause menu shenanigans to duplicate tokens, and it's brutal, and we get to see less of the game. So this is the primary any % category for our leaderboards nowadays. With that being said, though, I am very excited to show you all this beautiful, beautiful morning. We good to go? Good to go. Okay, let's get started then in 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Welcome to No Cheese, everybody. So this level is going to start off as kind of like a tutorial bit, but this will give me some time to talk about some of the basics of Heavy Iron SpongeBob stuff. One of the things you'll see right away is a phenomenon called slope jumping. There are lots of curved surfaces and invisible geometry in this game that if you just grace by them in just the right way, they'll give you your double jump back. So right here I'm going to spin. I'm going to seemingly get my double jump out of midair, and that's going to let me skip a ledge grab right there. And then after this, we're going to be making use of the fact that we can build up speed on this slide next to this rock in order to cross this gap, hopefully, without having to press the button here, just like that. Nice. And so I'm going to go ahead and beat up some of these jellyfish for extra points. Don't worry about it. We'll explain later. We're going to do a brief out of bounds here. Going to do a spin to go a little bit further off the platform. Double jump spin. That's going to let me grab the ledge. That strat saves about 20 seconds in having to skip a button puzzle. And then hopefully, if I do this right, we'll see our first instance of a lag buffered token warp. Nice. So that essentially what I did there is I lagged the game a lot, which allowed me to pause the game as I grabbed the Goofy Goober token there, and that skipped sort of the cutscene at the end there. So this is our first level with Patrick here. This is I'm Ready Depression, which is one of the funniest names for a 3D platformer level I have ever heard. We're going to be doing one of the most brutal tricks here, which is Chocolate Creek early. Give me just a second here. That's not going to work, so I'm just going to back it up. I need at least 1 HP here. I probably won't reach. Yeah. So this one's really tricky because you have to do another one of those spins off the edge of the platform in order to get extra distance, but it's a little bit trickier here as Patrick. That was early. Should work. There we go. So you grab that ledge right there, not out of the woods yet. I'm going to jump, damage boost here, and then that lets me jump up to those buttons and then hit them all with a spin. Normally you can't do this challenge and this Goofy Goober token until in the late game when you have either the Sonic Wave Guitar or Patrick's throw ability. But by doing that strat, this lets us grab it early, which is a lot faster. We're going to be picking up oh, there we go. Almost died. We are picking up an upgrade in a little bit, and upgrades require that you have a certain amount of tokens. Good lord. Oh, let's go. There's a lot going on, sorry. So what I just did there is another token warp. So token warps are a 2-frame window where you can pause the game, and then when you run into the token, and then it lets you sort of skip that animation at the end there. I just did that one bufferless, just walking straight up to it. That one's really, really hard. But the way that those work is that depending on which of the 2 frames that you get for that trick determines whether or not you get a visual cue for it. And so I got the later of the 2 frames, which means I guaranteed that I got it. But if you get the earlier of the 2 frames, then you have to make a judgment call on whether you think you hit it or not. And if you make the wrong call, then you can end up losing a lot of time. So I generally won't be going for those during this run. Anywho, we picked up the cartwheel. Doing Chocolate Creek early allows us to skip having to do the Now That We're Men, just the combat challenge. And then I'm going to do a lag buffer right there. This will hopefully get me another token warp here. And then as I load back into the starter level, I should have 3 tokens here. There we go, just like that. And then now that we have all the tokens that we want, we're just going to skip straight to the end of the level here. I'm going to get up to this spot right here, turn the camera slightly, and then hopefully, if I do this right, I can activate slope jumps right at the top, and that's Unready Depression. All right. Yeah, so that is a very early run killer, especially that trick you saw me take a couple of tries on, just because everything here is so precise. I remember hearing another runner say that if that level were later on into the run, then nobody would run this game, which is very, very true. So we're in a driving level here. This game, in addition to platforming levels, also has sort of these paddy wagon levels as well as some slide levels that we'll get to see a bit later here. There is a new out-of-bounds shortcut that you can do in this level, but I don't go for it yet because I haven't learned it yet, because it's pretty tough. But with that being said, I kind of want to explain a little bit about the structure of the route and why the estimate has gone down from like 2 hours to 1 hour and 15 over the course of the last 5 years. And that's because of something that got discovered called Mindy Skip. Like I mentioned earlier, you're normally supposed to have a certain amount of Goofy Goober tokens in order to get to like new levels and get certain upgrades to progress. But it was discovered a couple years ago that if you do a very particular like memory overflow type of glitch, then you can actually skip past the final 50 token requirement to get the paddy wagon at the end of the game. And that's called Mindy Skip, and that literally shaved off 20 minutes on its own. And then in addition to that, because of all the routing possibilities that opened up, like new strats have been found, and then there's also just a whole lot of new nonsense going on with some of the early game levels too. So it's just been kind of really interesting to see how far this like game has come even since then. I was doing a little bit of research before this run just kind of to see what times were like back then, because even though I've been running this game since like 2015, like I was just like, what were we doing back then? And it was really kind of interesting to see. But this level's pretty straightforward here. I don't really have too much to cover other than we get these things called nitros. They're kind of like your mushrooms in a standard Mario Kart sort of game. I'm pretty much only going to be using them to boost off of ramps for a little extra speed, as well as for going over rough terrain, just to avoid sort of the off-road speed penalty in a couple of spots, and you know, taking shortcuts a little bit here and there like you would in a Mario Kart game. So we'll be going around the ramps here, for example. But while we're chilling here, I don't know if we have anything we want to plug or read, but now would be a decent time.
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole bunch of incentives that you all should work toward, but I believe I have something to read here. There's $1 here from Pepperpot who says, "What's up, Jaxler? Always great to see a movie marathon run. Good luck, and hopefully Mindy doesn't troll you today."
Yeah, thanks, Pepper. Pepper's another SpongeBob runner. He's referring to Mindy Skip, which can sometimes crash if Mindy decides to give you the cold stare of death, as I like to call it. But hopefully we won't have to worry about that. All right, so now that we're leaving this level, we're going to be going into another platforming level that we shortened to 3K, because all of the level names in this game are just ridiculously long, as you can see right there. The thing we're going to be getting access to next is SpongeBob's bash ability, which is essentially an uppercut. If you remember the helmet bash from Battle for Bikini Bottom, similar sort of concept. But in this game, not in Battle for Bikini Bottom, if you take damage from spikes and then hold the bash button, you'll actually buffer a bash mid-air on the frame you come out of the damage animation, and that boosts you way past where you initially were being directed to re-land on, and you can use that to do a whole bunch of cool platforming skips here. So I'm going to manipulate the spitter to not deal damage to me, double jump spin into the corner here, bash boost off of there, and then I can take a huge shortcut over the side of those platforms just like that. All right, he's not going to cooperate. That's a little annoying. But I'm going to go right here, double jump, and then there's just going to be an invisible ledge that I can grab. That's a pretty big theme with this game, like I mentioned at the start, just invisible ledges and like slopes and stuff that we can either grab or just kind of like rub on the side of, and that gives us our jumps back. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of these enemies because they can kind of get in the way of this bash boost. This one's actually a bit more of a skip because this lets us get the bungee challenge warp, and then we can bounce all the way over to this button here. And I need quiet for just a second here. Hold on. That should work. Okay, so that is called bounceless. That is a 4-frame window where you pause within 4 frames of hitting that button with the bash. And what that does is it spawns in the Goofy Goober token for the challenge while skipping like the long cutscene that's associated with it. So we'll be getting that token there in a second. We warped over to Bungie, and I started up something called I'm gonna not go for that one. Started up something called the dive glitch, where you get yourself stuck under something, and it lets you bungee back and forth a lot faster than you are normally supposed to be able to. And as you can see, there's just a token over there now. That was the one from the More Bounce Please challenge that we activated by uppercutting that button and then pausing away. So we skipped like a 10-second long cutscene there. We're going to be going out of bounds here in a second. A little bit of a photosensitivity warning here. I'll let you all know when it's over, but there is just a gap in the water that you can just walk underneath. And then I'm going to be floor surfing here where I just repeatedly jump my head into the floor to refresh my double jumps. And then I'm going to be navigating here, doing kind of a leap of faith to land on this rock. This is the Patrick Gets Steamed challenge, and we're going to be traversing it from out of bounds here with a set of bash boosts here. Spin to right here, and then I have to do a real nice first try ledge grab. And then we can go ahead and take some of this geometry over here, and then the token's right there for us. This has a couple benefits. For one, it's a bit further into the level, and we can kind of take it as a shortcut. But grabbing the token is also going to unlock the warp destination in our menu. So we can actually just warp past a significant portion of the level by doing that. And that saves about 15 seconds or so. So really nice that I got that first try. That can kind of go bad. No more photosensitivity warning for the time being. Y'all can look now. All right, so this is a sponge ball challenge. We get rolled up into a ball. So there's a little bit of marble roller in here too, although I haven't gotten Helix to play this one yet, so
Let's go marble roller.
Let's go marble roller. All of these are very cycle based. I'm going to probably, against my better judgment, go for the fast cycle here. It's really, really tight, and it's going to look really sketchy, but we'll see if I can't hit it. If I do it right, I can get by those 2 fans over there without having to sweat all that much. Little slow, yeah. So you have to take that corner really tight there in order to make it. Not a huge deal. You just bonk if you miss it. So we're going to go ahead and across here, 8 to 9. And so I'm going to be looking to set up another token warp here. But this one I can't buffer at all, so I just have to do the pause. And I hit it. Let's go. So again, every time I do one of those like animation skips, it's a 2-frame window. And when I actually get the confirmation there that the token count increases, I hit the ladder of the 2 frames. So it's even more difficult to like get one that you can confirm, if that makes sense. All right, so now we're going into floating block here with Patrick. So one thing that's really fun about running this game specifically with Patrick is that he gets this cartwheel ability that he doesn't have in BFBB, where if you hold down the button, you just do this like super sick attack. But on top of that, it also just makes you go really fast. So the key to moving fast with Patrick then is to remain grounded as much as possible, because you can't cartwheel midair. And so a lot of what I'm doing is like cutting jumps early so that I can land as soon as possible, so I can start up another cartwheel. And the cool thing about the cartwheel is that as long as you keep holding it, it will keep going into the air infinitely until you stop it. So you can do like a lot of like cool cartwheel strats where you just kind of like cartwheel off ledges and stuff. And we're going to be doing some kind of sketchy platforming here. There we go. Yeah, so these floating block, this one's not super bad, but these floating block sections are pretty notorious for casual players just because the platforming can be pretty tough. Eventually there's spikes. It's kind of brutal. And then we're going to go ahead and grab this token, and then we're going to go ahead and make our way to the end level token of 3K. And so right as we load in, I'm going to be going for another bash boost in order to sort of get myself out of bounds. There's sort of a combat ambush that you're intended to do at the end of a lot of these levels here.
Or you'll get hurt.
But this one we can... yeah, okay. I'm going to have to take Hans here. That's not a huge deal. I'm trying to land on a specific spot out of bounds there so that I can refresh my double jump. Game is being a little mean at the moment. Give me just a second here. There we go. And so this is going to let me... thank you. This is going to let me go ahead and hop around the side of that challenge right there, and then I can just go straight to the end of the level here. There's like 3 or 4 ways, I swear, of like skipping that challenge, but that's the way we're going to do it for this run, and that's the end of 3K. So going out of 3K is probably the newest major discovery that's been added to this game, which is Rub-a-Dub Skip. It's really precise. I'm going to be attempting to essentially skip the entire level here, so I'm going to need a little quiet from the room here while I concentrate. Might work. We got it. Let's go. So slides in this game try to like pull you. They have like a gravitational orbit and like a very specific direction they want to pull you. So in order to get that one to work, we build up speed on the side of that railing there, and then we redirect it just at the right time before like its pull can like pull us or like cut all of our momentum. And so we're going to be seeing that strat one more time. We're going to be backtracking here later in order to get a time challenge token here as well. So if you thought that was cool, we'll get to see it one more time. But now we're going into BBBH, which is one of the trickier early mid-game levels here. We're going to be in here as Patrick, and we're going to be doing something called slide jumps at the start. So there's a slide that leads back into this room after you complete the level, and we're going to be going up it backwards. I'm going to ledge grab it from right here, and then I need some quiet real quick. That, yeah, you know what, we'll go with it. So every one of those jumps I did, there we go, nice. So every one of those jumps I did to get up the slide there was a 2-frame window. And so normally it takes 3 frames for the slide to exert its like forces upon you. But if you jump within a 2-frame window, then this force gets canceled out. And then you can just move freely back up the slide to the trigger that like activates the end level fight, which is going to spawn in the end level token for later, but we're not going to grab it quite yet because we have a couple of other tokens that we want in a little bit here. We also picked up the Slam, and I'm going to go ahead and upgrade it now just for convenience's sake. Slam's going to let us hit buttons, and it's going to be super important for the Frogfish boss fight, which is going to be the first one we're going to see in a little bit here. But I'll start setting this up now because it's a little bit scary. We're going to be going for our first truly frame-perfect strat of the run. We've had a lot of 2-frame window strats so far, but now we're going to get introduced to 1-frame jumps. So I mentioned earlier with bash boosting that you're kind of in a grounded state for a little bit after you get damaged by like water or spikes or something like that. And that window is 1 frame. So with the bash, you can hold down the button and buffer it to get that 1 frame. But in this case, Patrick doesn't have the bash, so all he has is jump. So I have to time a frame-perfect jump here in order to skip this. Second try, nice. Yeah, so that lets me get my double jump back midair and lets me skip about 20 seconds worth of platforming there. So we will always take a second try there. But if you mess that up, there's a checkpoint right there, so you just fall back in the water and try it again. All right, so we're getting a bunch of manliness points here by blowing up these barrels here. These are used to upgrade your various moves. I went ahead and already upgraded the smash just because we'll need it for later. But my kind of overall, like, we're gonna, like, if we were just to, like, go through guns blazing the rest of the route without, like, a care in the world, we would be severely, like, under-routed for getting the throw upgrade in Shell City Dead Ahead. So I'm making sure to, like, get specific, like, stacks of, like, breakables in order to make sure I have enough upgrade points available to me by the time I get to that point, because then that'll allow me to go for something really fun in Shell City Dead Ahead with the upgraded throw. So we're going to bounce into this. This is going to activate the Spongeball challenge warp from a distance. One of the big themes with this game is that grabbing a token or activating specific triggers can unlock sort of the warp point in the pause menu, and so we can use that to skip on a lot of redundant movement here. So in this Spongeball level, it's pretty straightforward. There is a very difficult cycle skip you can do called Fast Corkscrew that saves about 20 seconds. But it is extremely risky because if you miss it, you die. So not going to go for that. But what I am going to... 13, 14. Okay. So I'm counting off in my head just to make sure that my token counts are correct. And I am going to try to do another unbuffered token warp at the end of this one here. So we'll see if we'll get it. Gotta wait for this corkscrew. And then once I'm in the middle of the corkscrew here, I can start sort of oscillating back and forth. And this will give me enough speed to pass over the other side early. And then we'll see if we get it. Oh, we got it. Wow. All right. So I mentioned earlier that we're going to be back in Rub-a-Dub. We need to make sure that we have 20 Goofy Goober tokens by the time we get to the level now that we're men. And so we're going to be doing a little bit of backtracking here. So I'm going to take an intentional fall here to have Hans pick me up. This will let me double jump as soon as I gain control and let me set up for a Rub-a-Dub skip again. That might be good. No, not quite. Yeah, so you see how I like get slowed down there kind of midair, even if I have like the right angle? There's a phenomenon where if you jump on like a specific frame on like the platform, you get like kind of a speed boost. And you can use that to make a lot of these setups like way more possible. Like some of these are close, but they're not quite going to work. So give me just a second here to concentrate. This one's pretty tricky. That might work without it. Nice. Okay, we didn't even need it. Yeah, sweet. So you can do the trick like I just did there without the boost, but it's way easier if you do. So I was kind of lucky to get it during the first one. But yeah, sometimes you can lose runs to that just because you're not gonna. It's a really really precise setup. The game really does not want you doing that. Yeah, typical clear times for that level on the IGT are like, I think like, I don't even remember, 120s something. So even then, even failing it a bunch of times, it still saves a boatload. All right, and now we're gonna head back to sandwich driving. So sandwich driving just has another quick time challenge token that we can pick up. And then we're gonna make our way back to the start of Bubble Blowing Baby Hunt so we can get the end level Goofy Goober token. And then we can kind of move on with the rest of the route from there. So we got a little bit of a backtracking segment here, but not a huge deal. The reason we do it now is that the further our progress you are in the game, things like these crates will give you like less and less points for upgrades in like the earlier levels. So the earlier we do these levels, the better, because it means that we can farm for more manliness points for later upgrade routes. Yeah, we're just going to be chilling and driving here for a little bit. So, Helix, if we got anything to plug, now would be a perfect time.
Great timing on your end. I just received a $2.50 donation from Seldom Seen Kid who says, challenging chat to double this donation and give it to the next person. The next person, of course, being the Protest Foundation. So, any $5 gamers in chat? Double the donation, send it to the next person, as in the Protest Foundation? I'm just saying. It's a good offer. Take them up on it. We do have a whole bunch of incentives to get met.
Yeah, so to butt in here a little bit, I'll also be running Lunistis Writ later, and then I have an incentive, apparently, to be running True Ending instead of the 90% glitchless route. So if you want to see that and watch me be extremely washed and high amounts of comedy, then you should donate for that incentive. But yeah, if I were doing the out of bounds, what I would do here actually is hit. So all of these like driving levels have invisible checkpoints and stuff like that that you need to hit in order for the level progression to work, which is kind of annoying. But what you would do is you would kind of turn around before that little shortcut area there, and you can bonk off one of the tractors and get ever so slightly out of bounds and then drive through a building, and then that lets you skip like 10 seconds worth of the track. It's pretty hype, but I'm not good at it, so not gonna do it. I can also honk the horn and be really annoying, which is funny. This game's pretty good, have to say. Yeah, I hope everyone's having a good, awesome second morning to Midwest Speed Fest so far. Thank you all for letting me be here. I've been running this game since like 2015, and like this game doesn't get to be at marathons all that often, so really super appreciate it. We'll be kind of out of the woods with the backtracking bits. That was a 33. That's not bad. I think the fastest I've gotten is like a really high 31 on the IGT there, so not bad, not bad. And then obviously if you do the skip, you can do that way, way faster, but you know. Yeah, so unfortunately you can't do any like token warping or anything like that during the sliding and driving challenges, so we're just going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3. Warp back to this level, and then this puts us right back where, so once we like hit that trigger when I did that strat at the start of the level, the token just appears. And so that's going to get us to 17. The level after this is going to get us to 18, then the boss is 19, and then Rock Slide is 20. So now that we have our tokens kind of caught up, we're kind of just good at this point to just kind of go on a straight collision course towards the mid game, which is kind of like what I would call like the gauntlet stage of this run. The run's already pretty tricky up until this point, but there are 2 platforming levels in the middle of this run called Now That We're Men and Shell City Dead Ahead that are absolutely ridiculously hard, and hopefully I'll get to have a good show of what they look like at a decently optimized level. Yeah, so this is no weenie parking. The gimmick behind this level is that there's 5 keys on the track, and you need all of the keys in order to unlock the gate at the end here. And so we're going to, you're normally supposed to do this in 3 laps total, because there's a ramp to the 5th key that only appears after you've gone around the track at least twice. So again, with the nitros, the big theme here is if there's any off-roads, I use them for the off-roads. And then I also use them to boost up ramps, because for whatever reason, ramps are just really slow. So we're going to kind of nitro up the ramps a little bit here too. We're going to be taking a little bit of an alternate path coming up here, where you're normally intended to, in this next tunnel section, take a right and go through like a tunnel bit, and then there's a key at the end. But it's actually faster to take the shortcut where the extra was, and then turn around, grab the key, and then turn around again, even though you have to like stop and start and stop and start. This part of the tunnel is just so much shorter, so you're going to see me come off the ramp, slow down a little bit just so I'm not airborne for so long. Get around the corner, and then we'll nitro our way out of here. So now we're going down this path, which has 1 more key up this way, and then that'll also satisfy the 2 minimum lap requirement that we need to do to get the last key. It is technically possible to get the 5th key on the first lap. However, the amount of setup that you have to do to perform that is not worth the time investment, and it's also ridiculously hard. So if you want to flex, do it. I've done it before. It's really hard. But what we're going to do for this last key, so you're going to see that fan in the distance break over there. That's going to make the ramp that we need. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be burning all my nitros as soon as I get them, because instead of doing the full 3rd lap, I'm going to nitro into the key and then pause the game. Your progress on keys is just consistently saved the entire time. And so as a result, if you just pause and reload, it'll just put you back at the start, but have the gate opened up, and it just lets you leave. It's pretty nice. You don't have to clap. That level wasn't hard. You fools, reverse psychology. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so this is Mr. Whiskers, a.k.a. Frogfish, because it's a frogfish-looking thing. We upgraded Cartwheel and Slam here in order to do extra damage. And he makes Frogfish makes a good sound. Ooh. Ooh. And so my goal is just lure him over the side, and then I kick him in the butt. And so we're going to be doing a quick kill so that we only damage the tongue and make it so that the frogfish never actually comes back into the arena. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slam really close. The shockwave actually hits the tongue before it goes back underground and becomes invincible. Then what I can do is hit this as it's coming up, just like that, and it lets me quick kill the fight. The big reason why that's really important is that the frogfish, if you do that too slow, can shoot like the slowdown goop that the lobbers throw out. And we are trying to avoid that as much as possible, because if we do, from a fresh load, it allows for something called ice physics glitch later on. Hold on a second. I actually hit that. Holy crap. Okay, so that's really hard. This is called Skydive. You actually gain control a little bit before you see your characters on screen. So I have to basically do a backwards blind jump with perfect timing to get maximum height. And so now we're going to be doing a little bit of Titanic here. But what this allows us to do is sort of go around a bunch of kill planes up here and then fall down to a later part of the track, which is about a 7 seconds short. Might be a little bit more than that first try, but last time I heard it was 7 seconds, so that's just what I'm going to roll with here. So it's going to look a little slow here, but this is actually like a pretty nice little skip. So now we're going to start falling into the trench. We got past the kill plane. I'm so mad because I was getting bodied by that trick in practice. And then everything that I was doing well in practice, I have been similarly bamboozled by. So now we land on this. We turn around onto the slide to rebuild up speed, and now we're on the back in the main part of the track here. So what I'm going to be doing now is taking like this shortcut, which is normally for an extra, but instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go by this light post and go whee, because there's no kill plane here, so you can just fall down to this part of the track. And that's a pretty common theme with Rock Slide, is there's just a lot of spots where you can kind of jump and get past some of the kill planes in order to skip to later parts of the track. So there's a couple more skips and stuff that we're going to be able to do through here. You'll also be noticing me in a moment start to damage boost through some of these explosive barrels. And that's because, I really need the extra manliness points for later on. And so we're going to be hitting those there. And this is another spot where I can get a really tight frame window jump, but didn't quite get it. We can still skip over another big part of the track there. And then we're going to defeat all these trench monsters here. We've got one more skip towards the end of the level and like one more spot where I'm going to be damage boosting here, but there's not too much going on here at the moment. So this would probably be another good time for anything we'd like to plug before we get into the mid-game gauntlet.
I see $5 here from Hobtor, who says, taking up SSK's challenge. Let's double it again. double the donation and give it to the next incentive. Let's go. Thank you so much for the $5.
So-called free thinkers, when they hear double it, give it to the next person. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, Rock Slide is really interesting because there's a couple of different there's like a couple of different versions of different strats you can go for in this level. The one I'm going to be going for here for this final little skip here, risk reward probably isn't in my favor because it's like a couple seconds if I hit it and 40 if I miss it, but we'll throw caution to the wind here. So we're just going to go off the side here and then jump, and then we eventually land down here. And then we're going to take the right side path here, and that's going to get us to the end of Rock Slide. So we're big chilling here. We have an upgrade point, but we're not going to spend it until we get to Now That We're Men, because in that level, again, great level names, but in Now That We're Men, we're going to get access to Spongebob, and we're going to want that upgraded pretty much immediately, and you'll see why in a little bit. Yeah, so far run's been going pretty good, but we'll see what the mid game has to say about it, because this is where good runs come to die. So these two, like all like the platforming levels from here on out are so big that they're split up into multiple sections. And so in Now That We're Men, the first section, pretty tame as far as SpongeBob movie goes, speedrun wise to start. But in the second half of it, we call the Gauntlet, because it just has like 3 of the hardest tricks in the entire run back to back, and you get like no reprieve from either of them. So it's just really, really brutal. We upgraded the Spongebob. That makes it so that when we press the B button after we sent out our projectile, it explodes in a giant blast radius. That makes it way easier to hit switches, and it also does a boatload of damage, and that's going to be really, really useful for later. All right, so I'm going to be doing something here called Canyon Skip. I'm going to walk underneath this. Oh, that's not going to work. I didn't quite save it. So what I'm going to be looking to do is kind of get underneath this rock and then double jump spin in a specific way so I can skip having to hit the buttons. There we go. We'll take second try. And then something you're going to see me do through here is I'm going to do a bowl and then buffer an uppercut. And so this way I can actually launch my bowl like down the slide. Oh, I'm dead. Yeah, I lost a little speed there on the slide. That's a little annoying, isn't it? So I'm going to wait for these platforms to come back. And then we're going to take care of this fella right here. and then we're going to be going into another bungee challenge here. So I mentioned earlier that in the bungee challenges, if you get stuck underneath the target, it removes the restriction for how quickly you can like replunge, if that makes sense. But on top of that, in this bungee challenge only, you can break them from below. No idea why, but it's going to let us do some kind of cool cycle stuff here. All right, went for another token warp there. Didn't quite hit it, but that one doesn't save all that much time. Not a huge deal. Then we're going to go ahead in here, and then we're going to pull this fellow right here. And we're kind of waiting around a little bit here for the platforms to come through. And then we're going to get to see a couple more bash boosts here. The first thing you'll see me do is kind of bowl and then walk off this platform early just so I start moving a little bit, just like that. And that increased blast radius really helps with a lot of these buttons too. Then we're going to do a bash boost right here. Bonk off the top right there. That gets us a lot of distance right there, and that lets us get across. And then we have the lobster mini boss coming up here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over this. And I'm going to stay over here just to avoid spawning in the enemies. For whatever reason, if you wait about 2 seconds in between each bowl shot, like, you can beat this mini boss in 3 hits instead of 6. Not exactly sure why. I like discovered that by accident like 4 years ago or something like that. And now it's like meta, which is kind of cool in like a completely roundabout way. But now we're getting into the second half of the level, which leads to the gauntlet. The first thing you'll see me do at the start is something called puzzle skip, where I'm going to jump. I'm going to skip to a later trampoline and then jump off of it in such a way that it allows me to sort of skip a puzzle segment here. So give me just a second here. Jump off the door here.
Hey, this is great. You really got to try it.
Barely got it. Okay. So that's the easy trick. Now we've got 3 really tough tricks back to back. The first thing you're going to see is a double bash boost. You're going to see me bash boost off the lava, then off the top of the monster's head, and then make it to that token in the distance. Let's see if we get it. Ah, not quite. The monster moves back and forth, and so sometimes that can cause issues with trying to line up and get the second damage boost there. Should clear. Nice. All right, that's the first one. It gets harder from here. Now we're going to do what's called monster skip. I'll just let you watch. First try, let's go. Nice. Basically there you're doing a bash boost to a very tiny part of the monster's eyelash hitbox that doesn't deal damage. And then you do another bash boost off of the eye with no speed, and then you have to try to ledge grab the platform. And now we've got the hardest strat in the run, which is floating block skip. This is another frame perfect damage boost, but I have to do it off of moving spikes. Wish me luck.
Ouch.
Yeah, so this one's going to take me a couple of tries, but I get to do this up to like 6 tries before it like loses time. So we got plenty of tries at this here. So going to need a little bit of quiet from the room if that's cool. That one was late. So if I get my jump there, but I don't get a double jump, that means I was a couple frames late.
Jumping, jumper, jumper, ouch. Ouch.
Yeah, getting a little bit late here. It's, you know, nerves, but we're good. We'll survive.
Ouch.
There we go. Yeah, so with that strat, it's just barely possible to get up there. If you do that the fastest way, like first try, I think it saves anywhere from like 40 seconds to a minute. But no, more than that. I'm messing up my numbers. So I'm a little bit under routed on the mailiness points front. So I'm gonna go ahead and destroy that. That's still probably a little short. but we'll see how it goes. That gets us to 25 Goofy Goober tokens, which is going to let us get the throw upgrade as soon as we enter Shell City Dead Ahead. This is personally probably my favorite level to run through, especially with the way that I kind of do this level a little bit different than everybody else in the community, just because a little bit of swag, but also just because of some cool glitches that you could do as Patrick here. So we get the throw. That lets us throw things. We're going to hit the left side of that platform so we can skip a cutscene. I don't normally do this, but I'm going to go for the frame-perfect version of this skip. I didn't get it. So this is toilet skip. You can just jump around the side of the toilet. Giant mess of invisible walls and hitboxes there. And we're going to skip this puzzle by just pretending it doesn't exist. And then we're going to break this TV here. And so now we're going to set up for something, hopefully once I get the upgrade, cross my fingers, called the invisible crate glitch. And so whenever you use the upgraded charge throw with a crate against the wall, it explodes, but it doesn't get rid of all the hitboxes quite properly. And so that lets you do some very funny things. So I'm going to get this crate, turn around. You're going to see an explosion over here, and whee! Yeah, so that little hitbox there is left over and doesn't get cleared out, and if you stand on it and jump at the right time, you go flying. And so that lets us skip all of Cirque du Malaise here. Then I'm going to do a cartwheel jump to grab this ice block. That's really tricky. And then from here, taking damage on purpose and then storing it into the ice block. Then I can continue to jump and build up more momentum. I need one more. That's going to let me land out of bounds here and skip a really annoying platforming segment. I go on top of this alarm clock, double jump out of the cartwheel, and we made it over there. And in just a little bit, we'll have the checkpoint, hopefully. All right, cool, we made it. So I'm a little on the safer side now. Sweet. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab this melon, chuck it over here, and I'm going to use it as a... I missed it. That stinks. I'm using it as a platform there to go a little bit backwards into the level, and the reason why we need to do that is because we need to unlock the warp for SCDA Spongebob, which we want the token for. Oh, okay. Yeah, sometimes you just accidentally charge throw, and it's really annoying. So, hold on just a second here. This game's the worst. I just... All right. Let's try that again, but with gusto. I did not charge throw game. I'm being punked by my own video. Patrick, grab it, please.
It's kind of hypnotic. Ouch.
Okay, I don't know why. This is like not hard. I don't know why I'm struggling with this, but here we are. There we go. And that lets you grab that. And then you can come over here and hit the loading trigger for getting the warp and then leave. That's like the one place that like I never lose time. So that's... This level was going so good. And then my brain short-circuited. So, my bad. So I'm going to go ahead and steal this melon and throw it at the TV. And now we're going into something called 3-meter skip. I'm going to set this up to get to the slide by doing another invisible crate glitch. And then I'm going to stick myself in the ceiling so I can ceiling surf it. And then I have to finish it up by doing a couple more of those 2-frame slide jumps at the very end. So there's a lot going on here, so I'm just going to shut up and focus for a second because I apparently can't throw a melon. So here's the first part. So now we're stuck in the ceiling. And we're out of there. Nice. Yeah, so again, every time I do one of those like slide jumps, it's a 2-frame window. And on top of that, if you get the earlier of the two frames, the game snipes your double jump. So you literally have to react on the fly to whether or not you're allowed to use your double jump or not. It's pretty chaotic, but now what I'm going to do over here is I'm going to do a cartwheel off the edge. Oh, that's way too low. What I'm trying to do is a cartwheel off the ledge there so I can then grab it, which is going to activate a warp trigger for the floating block section, which I want to do not quite yet. And that's mostly just because of Did I hit it? Oh, I did hit it. Okay, never mind. We don't need the ledge grab. All right, so we got another sponge ball section here. This one's mostly just move in a straight line. So, Helix, this would be another great time if you've got anything you like to read.
Still waiting on someone to double the donation and send it to the next incentive, but hey, if you don't have $10 to spare, anything helps, even just a donation as low as $1. It all goes to help Protest Foundation and their current project, Prosthetics for Ukrainians. A little bit about that project. The goal of it is to help Ukrainian children, civilians, and soldiers to get free quality prosthetics in the USA. They cover all financial needs, including visa fees, lodging, and, of course, the prosthetics themselves. They also assist with psychological support and emotional recovery for victims. So they do a lot of good work there. And if you'd like to learn more, visit protezfoundation.com. That is PROTEZ foundation.com.
All right, go for another token warp here. So that was probably the ambiguous frame there, but I chose not to go for it. Because it's one of those things where if I go for it and I miss it, I have to do the whole level over again. So in a marathon like this, not a good idea. So now we're going to be going into the floating block. We're actually going to be kind of doing this one as well. And I actually have an interesting property going on right now called Ice Physics Glitch. So in the run, if you manage to avoid getting hit by a projectile attack from a lobber, like the weird neon blue spit, then this thing called Ice Physics Glitch happens, where you essentially don't have the slow acceleration at the start of your walk whenever you're on ice, and that allows you to make a lot of these platform cycles way safer, way less annoying. So it's one of those things you just kind of have to worry about. It's not super slow or anything if you don't get it, but it just makes things way less convenient. All right, so I'm going to be concentrating a little bit here on the platforming just to make sure I don't fall, because if you ever play this game casually, you'll know how punishing some of the checkpoints can be here. So we're just going to try to survive here. Looking pretty solid over here. I was getting absolutely murdered by this level in practice, so. And there we go. All right, so we grabbed that one, and then this is going to spawn us back by the warp pad 2 floating block, so that way we don't even have to worry about the TV and the switches you have to push in order to get to this section. So we're going to go ahead and cartwheel underneath this, and then we can just clip right through it by grabbing the ledge. Easy peasy. And then we're going to go ahead and skip having to hit this button here by just jumping on top of it instead. We can jump to this part right here, wait for it to hover back down. And then I'm going to slam the ground to stun these enemies so I can chuck them at these buttons over here from range, so I don't have to really engage with the ambush in the way that the game kind of intends me to. Unfortunately, didn't get that one. And now the... Okay, there we go. We still sniped it, which is pretty good. Those MERVs, as they're called, the floating enemies that shoot lasers at you and make you question ever playing this game, they can get in the way of your throws there. But then all we need to do here is charge a throw into the TV, and we get the token there, and we're good to go here. All right, so now we're going into the first Dennis boss fight. I'm going to be going for a quick kill strat at the start here, so I'm going to need a little bit of quiet here just so I can listen to some audio cues here. Got it. All right. So the conceit of that quick kill is that when you throw the melons at the platform he's standing on and not at Dennis himself, he takes damage both mid-air and as soon as he lands on the ground. So you can actually get double hits on him. And I use that there in order to sort of finish off the fight before enemies can spawn in and really start making things a problem there. All right, so we're backtracking here really quick for a objective that we could not get earlier in Bubble Blowing Baby Hunt, which is the Throwing Fruit Electric. Not too much going on here. The big thing is Sometimes you have to be careful with those rising platforms because if you hit them the wrong way, you'll clip inside because they move so fast. I'm going to pick this one up, wander this way, make it to the button over there, 31, 32. And then I'm going to be trying to go for another token warp here. We'll see if we get it. Didn't quite. A little bit too late. That's unfortunate. All right. And then we're going to make our way to Sunday, which is by far the longest driving level. So this is a good time to get up and stretch and relax. There's going to be some cool stuff that we're going to be doing in like the second half portion of the level here. But we're just kind of chill driving here for a little bit. Just keep in mind that I'm going to be building up a pretty hefty count of nitros for a strat later on. But I don't know. If we got anything more to plug, now's a good time. We got plenty of time to just vibe.
Heck yeah. Sounds good to me. You know, I said during the pre-show that we didn't have any marble rollers in this marathon. I lied. We have this game. It counts. I'm counting it. The streak is alive. But in all seriousness, I have a $10 donation from Anonymous that says, "Double up, let it ride." Thank you so much for your $10 donation. We do have these incentives open. The next one is Lunasis coming up in 2 runs from now. So after this is Dragon, a game about a dragon, and then Jaxler is back with Lunasis. That is at $179 out of $250. Y'all think we can get that met before the end of this run? I think we can make that happen. I'm just going to keep talking until you...
Oh, no, keep going. We've got minutes.
All right, yeah, I see that. For anybody in the room, I do apologize. We've been having some projector issues, but we're working on it. Doing the best we can. Hope you all are enjoying the marathon. I don't think I've plugged them yet today, so in case you are unaware, Midwest Speed Fest is taking place at VGMCon Oops All Zelda, live from Plymouth, Minnesota. VGMCon is an annual celebration in Minnesota that combines music performance with tournaments, indie games, panels, workshops, energy drinks, and a whole lot of fun, and of course, speedrunning. Its purpose is to create a community of engaged creators and fans around video games through unique experiences that you can't find at home. The Midwest Speedfest team is grateful to once again be part of VGMCon and would like to thank them for providing resources and support to help us host our marathons. This is a fantastic convention. They treat us very well. It is a pleasure to host our events here with VGMCon.
All right, so the whole kind of gimmick of this level is that Goofy Goober guy that's kind of in front of me. This is a dream sequence, by the way, in case you wanted to know. And so the way it works is if you go the wrong path, or even if you try to take shortcuts and get too far ahead of him, it'll auto-fail the entire level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that shortcut, and I'm burning all of my nitros back to back in order to boost super far ahead of Goofy Goober before he has time to game over me. And what this will actually do is completely unload him from the map. Ow. And what that allows is that once Goofy Goober is deloaded from the map, he's deloaded now. And so once that's achieved, it essentially allows us to take any path that we want to in lap 3. And normally in lap 3, there's a really long water slide that we have to do, and if we don't take the water slide, it fails the mission, and you have to do the entire driving level over again. But now that we've despawned him, we don't have to worry about it. So that's pretty neat. Grab a couple more nitros here, and again, just boosting over the rough terrain. We avoid ramps as much as possible as well in these driving levels, just because they very much get in the way. I have to be a little bit careful here because all these gumballs are going to try to ruin my life. You saw me skip this hidden shortcut earlier. If I were to take it in lap 1 for whatever reason, it would fail the mission instantly because this game is just built different, I guess. But yeah, anywho, you'll start to see the water slide I was talking about here in a moment. It's this thing right here. The water makes you super slippery, right there, and you have to ping pong back and forth between the walls of the water slide in order to have a semblance of control. And when you despawn Goober like that, you completely ignore it, and it saves a pretty fair chunk of time. And then we got one more boost, so we're just going to boost into the finish line, and then we'll be good to go for, I believe, Guess 1, if I remember correctly. It's hard to remember what level comes next, so I'm used to just having my splits on the side, so I'm just All right, so googly eyes and smelly knickknacks, or Gask if you don't want to be pretentious. This is the last slide level. This is where we get the King Neptune's crown. And so this level is split up into 2 chunks. We've got one here where we have to destroy some faucets, and then another upstairs where we gotta destroy some lamps on some electrical wiring here. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of skip this first one because we're gonna be doing kind of an interesting series of checkpoint strats in order to let us kind of warp around and sort of skip having to do multiple laps of this slide here. So we're taking this yellow cable here in order to get a checkpoint roughly on the blue cable right here. Then we're gonna hit this faucet right here, jump back to the one that we skipped, and then we can jump into the water and knock ourselves out here. And then if we jump, this lets us get back to here and also skip a cutscene. And so now we've basically at the end of the first section already pretty quickly. Taking intentional damage here, I want to be at 1 HP because we're going to be doing another Death Warp in a little bit. But this one's a bit different. There's a bunch of targets that break down lamps, and then those lamps let us get to the exit of the level here. So we're going to... this level has kind of changed over the years. The new route now with the Death Warp is we take the blue cable all the way up, and then like you can kind of hit the blue and red targets from kind of the same general path if you take like this. Oh, I got the extra too. That's not insignificantly tricky. And we take the blue path back up here. I have to be very careful to avoid this sandwich. We avoided it. That's really good. That'll save me like a second or two. And then we're going to go ahead and hit this yellow target. And then we're going to do a big leap of faith over to the orange cable here, where the game's probably going to get rid of my ability to turn. There we go. And then I grab the orange target, and then I can immediately zap myself with a laser in order to warp back to where the ramps start to go up. And I'm jumping as soon as I get these death warps, because if you land right away, a cutscene will play. But for whatever reason, if you jump, it just doesn't happen. It's kind of funny. All right, and so now we're making our way towards the end of the level here. So not too much going on through here, and then we're going to be going into Dennis 2 here very briefly for the rematch. Oh, this one's a lot more straightforward because we'll be Spongebob, and we have the Sponge Bowl, which again is like one of the most broken moves in the entire game, and it's going to shred his HP, so that'll be fun. All right, so similar to the first Dennis fight, if you damage him mid-air and as he lands, it basically stacks the damage. And so what I'm going to do is put a bull shot right here, put another one down here, and then he takes damage from both but doesn't get put into the stun animation. Then I can fire 2 more bull shots, and then he dies immediately, just like that. All right, so there goes Dennis 2, pretty straightforward. Also, shoutouts to doing a boss fight on David Hasselhoff's back. And then we're going to go back into Gask. We're going to grab one more token, but we don't really have to do all that much since we already hit all of, like, the targets and faucets and stuff. There is a strat that you can do here that I'm not going to go for because it doesn't save all that much, and it requires a bunch of frame-perfect inputs called Gask jumps. I haven't done it in so long that I forgot the name. But you can essentially, like, jump backwards up the yellow cable, or, like, the part of the yellow cable that's the exit, and use that to make it to the second floor early. But I'm not going to bother because that strat sucks.
Must have been something he ate.
And I'm already a little behind after the fiasco with the melon and Shell City dead ahead, so... Yeah, I don't know if we got anything to plug. We can do that now, or we can just take a break, relax. Want to remind everyone to make sure, especially if you're here in person, stay hydrated. It's definitely a little bit toasty, so make sure you're taking care of yourself. This would be a good time for a wellness break before we go into playing Topless, which is the last major platforming level before we're going to get to do some weird, funky stuff. So I guess I'll go ahead and kind of start setting that up right now. So the way that Playing Topless works is you need 40 Goofy Goober tokens in order to get the Sonic Wave Guitar, which is like the last major upgrade in the game, and then you're supposed to be able to hit a button that then lets you progress into the level. But it's very easy for us to skip that button. We still need the upgrade in order to beat the game, but that allows us to actually use some of the tokens from the level to count towards that 40 token progress requirement. And so that's exactly what we're going to do after we skip out a guest here. All right, so the first thing you're going to see me do is I'm going to come up to sort of that button I was talking about that you can activate with the Sonic Wave guitar. So Minnie's going to yell at me. I'm going to tell her to shut up, and then we're going to keep going this way. What I'm going to do is stand on top of this box and then uppercut so that I bonk into it. Then I can get a jump, get a slope jump off the side, and that lets me skip over the spikes. Now we're going to be going into Pointopolis Bungee, which is really tough, so give me just a second here to concentrate. Going for a specific fast cycle here. Nice, we got it. And we live too, so that's really good. All right, so that gets us to 37, and then we got 3 more tokens we can grab here. We're gonna jump off of this box here, and then do a double jump spin. That's gonna let us get another slope jump, and then I'm gonna kind of turn the camera here, and then just kind of fall back in bounds just like that, no big deal. And then we're gonna go ahead and pick up Patrick, and we're going to, for one, unlock the warp point for the combat challenge in this level. This is the only combat challenge we're gonna be doing in the run, and it's pretty devastatingly difficult, so hopefully that goes well. We're gonna throw the Freezy Fruit in there. Then we're gonna kind of just be able to wedge ourselves between the Freezy Fruit and the side of the wall there, so we can kind of just clip out and not have to throw the melon twice. Grab the warp point, and then I'm gonna try to set up for a token warp. See if we can't get it. I'm not gonna risk it. I'm not gonna. That would have worked, but I don't believe in myself. But it's all good. All right, here comes the combat challenge. Really scary part. Let's see if we get it. All right, we got it. Yeah, so combat challenges are normally really slow. It's like waves of like 30 enemies back to back, but the last one's just a jellyfish, which is very funny. All right, so now we're going to be doing a trick called Patrick Out of Bounds, which is going to let us skip most of the first part of Pointopolis. We're just going to jump up here and grab this ledge, and that's going to clip us out of bounds. And what I can do from here is I can cartwheel underneath the world and start ceiling surf on a later part of the level. So all of these platforms under here are supposed to rise out of the lava as part of a later token challenge. What I can do is ceiling surf with the cartwheels here, and the token is always loaded. So what I can do is, for one, I can just get the token, but that also unlocks the warp point that I can then warp to in the pause menu later. And so that essentially lets us like later skip way forward into the level into the second half here. So I'm going back to the start of the level here in order to pick up the Sonic Wave guitar. You're going to see me bowl here and blow it up and then quit out of the game. That sets up what's called bowl storage, and that's going to be really important later on. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It also means I'm not going to be able to use the bowl for pretty much the rest of the run, which doesn't really impact anything. I just have to make sure I don't accidentally do it. And now we're going to be coming into the second half here, and we're going to be doing a really cool trick here called a guitar glide clip, or GGC for short. And so what that involves is if you press the guitar button as you land on a wall jump platform, you just start hovering midair in kind of a weird way. And then if I combine that with double tapping select to lag the game, the momentum from that interaction will actually clip me through the wall, and I can start hovering through the air. And this will let us do a really cool kind of strat coming up here in a bit. We're going to go ahead and damage boost here in order to skip some more platforming. And then we have to go ahead and solve this puzzle coming up here in order to get access to the wall jump platforms. There is a way to skip to them early, but it causes this trick to not be able to work, so we actually on purpose do this part as intended. So it's the same puzzle every time, so we're just going to hit him with the guitar. Again, we can't really use the bowl here, so we're not going to use the bowl. And then I'm going to turn around, and then hopefully you'll see pretty quickly the effects of this glitch I'm going for here, the guitar glide clip. 1, 2. Oh, I didn't get the guitar input. Thanks, game. That one's literally not my fault. Not a huge deal. May have to reset full storage. Well, we'll see. I may choose to reset bowl storage in a bit. There we go. So now you're going to see I'm going to start floating, and if I continue to use the karate spin here, that's going to allow me to control my direction here. This lets us float past that room and elevator all the way up there and just get straight to this section right here. Then I'm going to cancel out of it by just landing on the ground, and then I'm just going to grab a ledge there, and that clips me back inside. All right. So now right here, as this platform lowers, I'm going to be doing a bash boost in order to skip like this entire section. And then I'm going to be hopefully going for something really swag here called Monumental Bash, where I'm going to do a bash boost off the eyeball laser here. Oh, that's really bad. Yeah, I missed. All right. Oh, good. We got a checkpoint, so we'll get to go for it again. I got a really funky angle off the launch there. And so that lets us get up here, and we can just kill the mini-boss through its face. Just like that. All right, so this is the part of the run where we start doing Mindy skips. So I'm going to go ahead and, before I set this up, I'm actually going to go ahead and reset bowl storage just to be safe, because that is a key ingredient to getting this skip to work. So I'm going to go, I'll just go ahead. Oh, I rewarped into the level I just tried to leave. That's funny. All right, well, there goes 5 seconds. So I'm going to go back into playing topless, set up bowl storage again here. Oh, hey, we have a projector. So y'all don't have to look over my shoulder anymore. All right, so we're going to go ahead and reset bowl storage here. Then I'm going to warp to Shell City, Dead Ahead Spongebob. Then I'm going to pause the game and leave. You have to go to this challenge here in order to get this to work. And then in Knucklehead here, if I hold the A button, there's like a one, like it'll like move me forward in the paddy wagon for 1 frame. We actually have control, even though the game doesn't tell us. You'll start to hear some things break in the background. So I'm gonna nitro here. Do it one more time. And then I should fall into the pit. And because I did that bowl storage setup as well as everything, it spawns me into a combined Macho Time Challenge and Ring Challenge, because for whatever reason, when the bowl, when you detonate the bowl move and leave, it leaves the hitbox on screen. And that causes some really weird stuff with the game's memory that we don't have a firm grasp on. And it just tricks the game into loading into the wrong challenge. And that just makes the game assume that we've unlocked the level. And so now we've just bypassed 20 minutes of the game, which is pretty cool if you ask me. So now we got one more driving level before we got the final boss. So Helix, if you got any more updates on incentives or anything, this is probably the last good time we've got.
All right, yeah, I will do one final plug here during this run for these like 4 incentives we have to get met. Lunasis is at $179 out of $250. That is the one that is coming up next, so let's finish that one up. If you are unfamiliar with the process to assign your donation to a incentive, when you are on the donate page, you need to type in, however much you want to donate, and then on the right side, or probably on the bottom if you're on mobile, you will see a list of all the incentives. You can click the incentive you want and then assign however many dollars you want to it. And you can also split up your donation between multiple incentives that way as well. So get your donations in. Let's get these incentives met.
Woo! Thank you so much to everyone who's been here, both in the chat and in the crowd. It's always super cool to get to be able to run this game in front of people, because it has a not like a small community, but also not like a super large and visible one. So it's really cool to be able to get to show off this game that I've been running for almost 8 years at this point. So it's been a pretty good ride so far. So big shout outs to everyone on the staff as well for making this possible and for making everything so smooth and seamless to the naked eye. All right. I gotta be a little careful here. So if I die, it puts me back at the start of the level. So I'm gonna try to not do that, because it'd be kind of slow. Yeah, we're coming up on the end of the level here. So one last little reprieve before we go into the final boss, which is always a butt clencher because it's pretty tough. Da, da, da. All right, so here's Turn the Tables on Plankton, aka the King Neptune fight. We're going to start by going off to the right, and the way that this fight works is that we need to flip these tables so that we can reflect a laser attack later at Neptune here. And so my goal here is to not take damage, which is very difficult because it's not quite a hit scan flamethrower, but it feels like it. And so I'm kind of jumping back and forth here in order to sort of wiggle him back and forth so it doesn't actually damage me, but so I can still go ahead and activate. All right, we're gonna finally upgrade Sonic Wave Guitar here so that we can get some double damage and do all 3 phases in just 2 hits. And the big reason it's important, oh God, that was a lot of lag. The big reason it's important to not take damage is because if you get hit by one of his attacks, his progress in the phase resets. And so that means you have to like watch more of his attacks, and it's really slow. So if you notice that sphere in the center of the map, that's actually the ball particle effect that just like never deloads. If I were to bowl, it would disappear, but it just likes to hang out there. All right, so now that we're out of phase 1, we are infinitely more in the clear. The strat here is that the circle that of lasers is only a set radius, so you can manipulate where he spawns it by putting yourself in specific positions. Then you can jump to safety, and usually the lasers will be out of the way of the table. So I tend to find that the phases of the fight get easier the further on into the boss fight from a speedrunning perspective, where casually it might be the opposite, which is kind of funny. All right, so we're going to do this one more time here, but I'm just going to concentrate a little bit because I kind of messed up the laser placement there, but all right, we're good. And then after this, we'll go into the final phase, which has like the greatest final boss song of all time. If you know, you know. We got one more laser hit. And then we get the hype and also the content ID later for the VOD upload. So sorry to whoever has to put those on YouTube. All right, here you go. So in this phase, there's holes in all the platforms and stuff like that, and 2 spitters firing at us. But luckily, there aren't as many lasers going on. So what I'm doing here is manipulating these lobbers to spit at certain times so that they don't bother me as I try to platform here. Some people opt to just kill them, which is a totally fair strategy. However, manipulating them is way more fun and makes me feel better as a runner. I don't know. But I can also make use of the fact that as soon as he becomes vulnerable or like some state change happens to the boss, all the goo drops midair like disappear immediately. I can also use my guitar as a up-close weapon to destroy any that get too close as a fail-safe. But again, I'm just trying not to get hit by the laser here, because if I do, his cycle resets. But yeah, he's only got 1 more hit, so time will be coming up relatively soon. It's going to be on final hit. All right, we'll get ready on time. And time. All right, we stayed under estimate. Huzzah. 112, not bad. Yeah, so that was the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, No Pause Storage. Kind of sad that I got griefed by the melon in Shell City Dead Ahead, but hey, what are you gonna do? Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Again, thank you to everyone for having me. I want to shout out a couple of people from the movie community. I want to shout out Purple, Oofster, TDS as well. Shout outs to Brit as well. Just shout outs to the whole movie community in general and the people who have been like pushing the game a lot. Fogey as well. A lot of people playing and pushing the game right now, which is really cool because I started running this game literally, it's weird to say, but 8 years ago, it's 2015. So sorry if I caused psychic damage there, but it's really cool to see how far this game has come since then. I'm really grateful for the movie community as well, and also for the Midwest Speedfest community for letting us come back to this event multiple times. So yeah, thanks for having me. If you want to watch more weird games that you've probably never heard of, like this one, you can find me at twitch.tv/Jaxler1. I'm going to be running Lunastis in a little bit. Make sure you donate to meet that incentive so you can make me play True Ending. With that being said, I'm going to throw it back to Helix. Thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the event.
Until the sequel depends on the box office. Now go outside and get some.
Thank you so much, Jaxler. And don't worry, you will be seeing more of Jaxler